Thanks for joining us today on the Big Blue Podcast. I'm Greg Stone, Southeast Campus Provost, here with Dr. Lee Goodson, our President and CEO. Dr. Goodson, how are you today?
I'm doing great. How are you, Greg?
I'm really well. We're here in the McKeon Center for Creativity at the Metro Campus with Randy Dominguez, who has for so long been over online learning at the college, and before that, who was so heavily involved
Media
in
manager.
media management and telecourses, and Randy is getting ready to retire, and so we knew we needed to have him come back in and sort of talk about that.
Okay.
Randy, remind me, when did you come to the college? Was it 86?
85.
85.
It was September of 85. I actually started at Northeast Campus and worked there for 7 months. And then I was just a media guy, pushing, part of the library back then, pushing carts around, setting up VCRs for faculty, that kind of stuff.
VCRs.
Yeah, VCRs.
And now you're going to retire as Director of Online
Director of
Learning.
Online Learning.
And obviously, there's a lot that's changed since 1985. So what were the early years like for you, other than pushing VCR carts around?
Well, like I said, for 7 months I did that, and then they had the opening for the media manager here at Metro because they had a coordinator role that the gentleman was retiring. And so the director of the library at the time, Mike Brusk, came to me and said, I'd like you to apply for that position. And so I did, and I got it, and went from the bottom man to the top man in the media services area in 7 months, and everybody hated that, but that's the life you live. and that was exciting. That was
you had
fun.
come from ORU before that? Am I
ORU.
remembering right? Yeah.
Right. And at ORU, I was, as a student employee, I worked in what they call Center for Instructional Services, which is kind of like some of the stuff we do around here, producing educational videos for faculty. And we had instructional designers, and I was on the production side, so we did a lot of that, which was pretty fun.
So when you started here, were there telecourses?
Yes.
Yes.
So the telecourses were run by OETA back then.
Oh,
So
interesting.
it wasn't us with a direct hand in that.
And it wasn't back and forth.
No,
It was just TV courses.
just TV courses.
And so it was-
kind of like a glorified correspondence course.
Right, except
Yeah.
there was video involved, and you had to watch it at the right time.
Yeah.
Right, because we weren't recording anything.
Right,
Right.
exactly,
Okay,
exactly.
wow.
Yeah.
We have come a long ways, haven't we?
Yeah, so we did produce some of our own back then. When I was part of media services, we did the Spanish telecourse ourselves with Tina Pena. Did several of those, produced those, and then the computer concepts course back then with David Matthews. We did the DOS videos and the early Windows videos and stuff like that for teaching that class.
So how do you think the transition from telecourses to online and blended courses has impacted student success?
Well, obviously, the telecourses were, like I say, a little bit more like a glorified correspondence course. And so success was, can you watch the videos, read the text, and 4 exams and
Answer
you're
a
done?
few
That's
questions.
pretty much what it was. And whereas online courses, we're now more engaged with the students. The faculty can do a lot of things online, whether it's discussion boards or even with two-way video now, we can do collaborate videos and things like that, and have rooms to prepare students for tests, just like you would do in a classroom. You might go over a test or something like that. You can do that online just as easily. So it's better. It's much
It's better, yeah.
And now we're learning more, too, about the pedagogy online is we can design courses for better success and for multiple learning styles, which is, you can't even do that in a classroom. So it's kind of neat that you can target different learning styles with your content and the way you distribute it.
I think I may have mentioned this the last time you were, I don't know, the last time maybe when you were on the show, Randy, that when I was working on my master's at Fort Hays, I know I've mentioned this before, but I was a traveling recruiter
Oh, okay.
for Fort Hays State, and there were sites. So the faculty member would be at one site, and then as long as you were at one of the sites across the state, you could take that class. And so if the class was being offered at Fort Hays State, which is where I had to take my classes from, as long as I was either in Manhattan or Concordia or Topeka, I could go to class, right? Because they had so it was.
Was it two-way video? The
It
video
was two-way
ITV?
audio.
Oh, talkback.
It
TV.
was It was,
Did they have
there
video?
was no video.
Okay.
No video.
So we had an early, the statewide, we had what they used to call talkback TV. So they
Right.
broadcast
Okay.
the instructor.
And then you could
You
talk.
had a phone to call back in
Right.
a room.
I'm trying to remember what the vocabulary word they used. It wasn't called a telecourse.
ITV maybe, or
Well, but it wasn't television. It was
Wasn't
just
television.
audio.
there was instructional fixed
Yeah.
television service, IFTS or something.
It was interesting, but it reminds me of that anyway.
A lot of different technology.
Well, and Randy, too, you've been here long enough, and there aren't too many people who are still employed at the college who can say that they've worked for all four presidents in the college's history. But you came when Dr. Phillips was here, certainly through Dr. Van Treese and Dr. McKeon, and now Dr. Goodson. And I've heard you tell this story before about when a major announcement about online learning was made at Convocation, and it literally went right over your head.
Yeah, so this was 1997 was when I was actually hired in to be the director of, back then, distance learning, because it was multiple different styles. My role then was to oversee ITV and telecourses, and the telecourses was our biggest program. And so I'm sitting there, I think I was hired in April, and then this was Convocation in August, I believe, and it was Dr. Emilio Ramos from the Dallas LaCroix system was the main speaker. And so he came and he talked about telecourses, which I was like, yeah, that's great. And then he started talking about, well, we're moving into these online courses. And then Dr. Van Treese got up and said, I want to have 20 online courses by next year, by next fall, 1998. And I was like, that's great. Not even thinking that was anything to do with
That
me.
was you.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
it didn't dawn on me. And then people were coming up behind me. Literally, I'm sitting in the row there going, this is great. Oh, that's you. I'm like, what? Me? Yeah, distance learning, Randy. That's distance learning. And so it just didn't dawn on me at the time when he announced it. And then it freaked me out.
Well, of course it did, because, yeah.
But we beat his 20 by 7. So we had 27 courses
Way
by
to go.
fall
Up
of
and running within a year.
98.
That's impressive.
Yeah.
That is impressive. Well, I'm Lee Goodson here with my co-host, Dr. Greg Stone, and you're listening to the Big Blue Podcast. Our guest today is Randy Dominguez, and we have been talking about how our college community uses technology to support effective learning. So, Randy, talk to us about what are you most proud of
Can I
with your
name
career?
more than one?
You can.
I could not
But
figure out just
what are
one.
the accomplishments you're most proud of
there's several.
in your career here at Tulsa Community College?
Well, I'll go back again, talking about there's different times that I can remember certain things. We talk about telecourses. When we started our telecourses, we were running everything through OETA. We didn't have our own cable, we didn't even have our own cable channel, if I remember right. And so we discussed with Cox to get our own channel. Once we had that, we decided that we needed a system to actually play telecourses and to do it 24/7. And so that was kind of my background. And so we created the first, literally a VCR system on timers with a special
Wow.
device that would play the tapes in certain times. And it started us down the road of running courses 24/7, which allowed us to increase more courses because we didn't have this fixed, I think it was only like 8 or 9 hours we had under OETA to run courses. Now we had 24/7. That was a big deal. And I wasn't in charge of telecourses, but I was essentially running those courses on the system and on our channel. That was number one. Obviously, launching the first 27 online courses, that was a big deal for us, too. I was really proud of not only us, but the faculty going from 0 to 60 with literally most people didn't even know how to use their computers. They had computers in their offices, and most of them were on the floor, and they were using them as footrests and stuff, and didn't know what a mouse was. And so we had a lot of training sessions for them to get up and going, and I was proud of them because they were not fluxed by the technology. They knew they could do it because many of them were telecourse faculty already, and they said, yeah, we could do this. We could do distance learning. It's just a new technology. And so that was a proud moment, too. A lot of people don't know about this, but this was kind of a big deal for us. So back in that day, just launching the online classes, our internet connection to the world I'm going to get a little technical here, but we had what's called T1 lines, which were 1.5 megabits per second. We had 4 of those. And we were running phones on those lines as well as our internet. And then from OneNet, we had this broadband video back then for doing ITV. And they gave us what they call a DS3. Well, that's 45 megabits for doing video. And I was like, what's wrong with this picture? We're not doing ITV. And we have this little, like, total of 6 megabits for doing internet and 45 for doing broadband video. And so we went down to Oklahoma City and talked to the folks at OneNet and said, we want to be one of the first schools to just use our DS3 line for just internet traffic. Let's swap that. Let's use
Wow.
the T1 lines for video for ITV, and let's use the DS3 circuit, the 45 megabits for internet. And they
Progressive.
said, sure. It's all data anyway. They didn't care. So we flipped, and so we had a lot more internet traffic because we knew with Blackboard and everything else, it was going to take a lot of internet.
Wow.
That was, yeah, and it was done free of charge, and I was just, I love that. So that's one of those hidden secrets that very few people
Well,
know
and
about.
it's just very progressive thinking to make that request.
Yeah. And to think about how different things would have been had you and the team you were working with not really been
Asked for that.
strategic and thinking about those outcomes. But like you said, something behind the scenes that most people probably didn't know about or think about, but that's what makes things work, right?
Well, the
That's-
rest of the state
yeah.
was big in doing ITV, essentially,
Mm-hmm.
and we weren't. We were just, we were heading down that internet road because our president wanted us to go that route, and so we're like, okay. So we knew we needed more.
And what
bandwidth.
year was that?
Right around 2000. I think it was about 2000, 2001.
So Dean, Dr. Van Treese was the president.
Yep.
So I know you have a new grandson, still relatively new grandson.
1 year
Congratulations.
tomorrow.
Excellent, okay.
Yeah.
So other than spending more time with him, what are you looking forward to about retirement?
Yeah, I've been thinking a lot about what do I really want to do. Because I'm still 57. I plan on working still. I don't know if it'll be full-time or part-time. I mean, I need to work. I like to work. And so I'll probably do more of that. But it will give me more time to do some volunteering, which I enjoy doing. And whether it's with my church or with other things, I enjoy doing that. And then, travel, spending time with the family.
Mm-hmm.
That's the goal.
What are you going to miss about the college?
Back in 2010, that's another thing that not a lot of people know about this, but I almost died. I mean, I was hospitalized after back surgery, had meningitis and pneumonia after a flawed back surgery. And just the outpouring from this community, I never looked at TCC as a family until then. I mean, it just convinced me after that. It was just like the love that came from people, my staff, and other people that I barely knew. Dr. Van Treese kept coming and visiting me in the hospital. I mean, it was just like, wow, people really care about you. And when I came back, it just changed my view of the college and what it is for me and my family.
It's pretty cool.
Yeah.
So we ask everybody this question at the end of the interview. If you could go back and give advice to your 18-year-old self, and we don't remember how you answered it last time, so you can change your answer.
I don't remember either.
And that would be a funny thing, as we
Yeah.
roll those through to compare this. If you could go back and give advice to your 18-year-old self, what would it be?
I went straight to a university. I was the first in my family to go to college. We didn't know anything I didn't know what a junior college or community college was. And so I knew when my daughter wanted to go to school, I was like, you're going to community college first. I would tell them, go to the community college, get those 2 years done and smaller classes and cheaper. I mean, I was in big classes even at ORU. I had classes of 150. And, I struggled a little bit with that. So, I mean, I did fine. I got out of there
That's
with a
good
B
advice.
plus.
We like that advice.
It is good advice. It's a great place for a lot of people to study and as you're great evidence of, great place for somebody to come to work. I'd say too before we wrap up that, and you and I got to work pretty closely together for about a year and a half, sort of between organizational structures, and it was just great to get to sit down and learn more about what you do and just to get to hear about the college from your perspective. So I really
Well, thank you.
liked that time that we got to work together, Randy, and best of luck in retirement.
Looking forward to it. Thank you all.
We've been listening to the Big Blue Podcast. We want to thank, again, our guest, Randy Dominguez, for spending some time with us today, and we want to thank you for listening. Remember, you can catch the Big Blue Podcast each week in the week at TCC and on the Creativity channel on YouTube, and now subscribing through iTunes. So check that out, and we will see you next time.